Thousands of Palestinians are returning to the ruins of their homes in Gaza. While the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas appears to be holding, 15 months of war have devastated the territory's infrastructure. In the southern city of Rafah, entire neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble.
This used to be a neighborhood where people lived. Tel al-Sultan in Rafah, southern Gaza, near the border with Egypt. Ali Fasafis and his family were displaced 4 times during the war. After the ceasefire came into force on Sunday, he wasted no time in returning to see what was left of his home.
I was in such a hurry to see my house. It was all I could think about. I just wanted to get there, whatever it took, just to see it. But when I saw it, I was shocked. I stood there for more than an hour, unable to move, paralyzed by disbelief. It was one of the hardest days of our lives, I swear to God, seeing that scene. I never expected this. I never expected to see such devastation. We thought there might be damage, but not like this.
All the local infrastructure is gone, and it's unclear if or when Israel and Egypt will allow building materials into Gaza. Fasafis says he has no idea how to rebuild his house. And without work and income, it's even harder.
If I were to rebuild this place with my own money, it might take me 60 or 70 years, maybe 80 even. I'm 45 years old. How am I going to rebuild?
In the meantime, people here are hoping for help that hasn't yet arrived.
They're now saying they'll bring caravans for us to live in. We'll do whatever, but I want to stay near my house.
But one major concern remains, that the temporary ceasefire might not hold.
I pray to God that the truce continues. There's nothing left for them to destroy anyway. God willing, I hope the truce holds.
And while Palestinians like Ali Fasafis in southern Gaza have been able to return home, hundreds of thousands of others are still waiting for permission to return to northern Gaza.
Well, let's cross over to Gaza and bring in Rosalia Bollen. She's a spokeswoman for UNICEF, that's the United Nations Children's Fund. Now, Rosalia, as we saw in our report, entire neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble. What are UNICEF's top priorities in Gaza now?
The top priorities are to be able to bring in life-saving critical supplies. We have been able to do that over the past 4 days as the ceasefire took effect. Beginning of January, the number of trucks that were coming in on a daily basis, they hovered around 45 to 50 trucks a day. On the first day of the ceasefire, the humanitarian community collectively brought in 630 trucks with humanitarian supplies. On day 2, that was 950 trucks we collected at the crossing. And yesterday, we collected just under 900 trucks. They contain life-saving supplies that are very, very broad, from health items, for instance, incubators for babies, cold chain to store vaccines and medicines, to nutrition supplies, high-protein energy biscuits for malnourished children, hygiene items, kits for adolescent girls with sanitary pads, underwear, blankets to keep them warm, hygiene kits for families with nappies, wet wipes, hand soap, dishwashing liquid. It's a very, very broad range in terms of the supplies that we are bringing in. The priorities are being able to sustain that. Also getting the private sector to bring in commodities. Humanitarian aid supplies are very specialized, and they are not intended to sustain an entire population. We need the market to restart. There's also some aid that people need that doesn't come in on trucks. Humanitarian cash assistance, for instance, cash transfers, digital transfers to vulnerable families. So the priority is for that aid to continue flowing in. We need continued access. We also need the ceasefire to hold. That's absolutely vital in terms of our operational constraints, but it's also vital for saving children's lives. And people need to be able to return to their homes, although there's many homes that are no longer standing.
Rosalia Bollen there from UNICEF in Gaza. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Oliver McTernan is director of the organization Forward Thinking. He was involved in negotiations that led to the release of the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2011. Though he has no formal role in the current talks, he regularly speaks with the senior figures in both Hamas and the Israeli government, and he joins us from London. Oliver, the ceasefire is holding, and we are seeing relief across the Gaza Strip. What do you think are the most urgent matters to tackle right now?
Well, I think your clip there showed the extent of the devastation. I had friends return to Rafah, and nothing was left of their house or a school that they ran, a kindergarten school, totally destroyed. I think the main challenges now is to restore as soon as possible the what I would call the social fabric. Of course, people will need livable spaces, be they caravans or modern type tents with hygienic facilities. That's an essential. But I think after that, food on the table. And then there are three areas that we have been focusing on. One is the need for access to health. All of the hospitals, the whole health system, as we understand, the sort of physical structure has been destroyed. There's still a number of very competent health professionals in Gaza, and they will need a lot of support and help. Likewise, education. Children will need access to education. The schools, the universities are being destroyed. So focus on that. And then I think the legal system, because as I understand, the courts, the whole justice structures in Gaza have been destroyed. So there'll be need to have some sort of legal order where people can address their disputes and so forth and get the help they need. So I think those are the key factors that I would say are part of the social fabric that need addressing.
Now, what role do you think can the international community, play in ensuring that the truce holds and also in rebuilding efforts in Gaza?
Well, I think there's one person we know regarding the truce that will matter. Well, two people. One, Netanyahu. And what he's been saying, it isn't encouraging because he is reported to have said several times since the truce began that he is determined to finish the job. In other words, to go back to war and to oversee the demise of Hamas. Whether he can do that, and I think he needs to do it to continue in his political situation, but whether he's allowed to do it in the sense that he will have American support, of course, will depend on President Trump. And we've been getting from him, on the one hand, encouraging words that his proudest legacy would be to be a peacemaker and a unifier. Now, it remains to see will he walk the talk. And it also remains to see what does he mean by peace. Is it something that's imposed by might and power, two words he likes using, or is it mediation, negotiation, and end of occupation, establishment of a Palestinian state, which I think is the only step that will bring to Israel the security it is looking for.
You're sounding not very optimistic there that this truce can hold and be a pillar to a long-term solution.
Well, it's worrying to observe what's happening in the West Bank at the moment, in Jenin and in other parts of the West Bank, the clampdown, the military aggression. It's almost as if there is a need to continue this sort of military side of things. I think that is the most worrying factor. It isn't, we're not getting the signs of people feeling they've had enough of fighting, they've had enough of the acts of retribution, retaliation, and now is the time to look to the future and really try and stop managing this conflict, but once and for all break the silence of violence by addressing the core issue, which again I come back to is occupation.
Oliver McTernan there. Thank you very much for sharing your analysis with us.
Thank you.